the penny. Once again on the cover of this month's Infant Swallowables magazine. The US Mint produces around 8 billion new pennies every single year, which is strange considering pennies are currently worth so little, they're not even worth what they're worth.
According to the government, each new penny now costs roughly 1.7 cents to make, rendering each a loss from the start.
It's true. 1.7 cents to make 1 cent. That really makes the phrase, "you have to spend money to make money," ring painfully true. So we spend around $136 million a year making $80 million worth of currency that, let's face it, no one really uses. One study found that 2/3 of pennies don't circulate, and yet the penny hangs around for no reason, like the appendix or the new Muppets TV show. How is this still on? And how did someone somewhere think, you know what the problem with the Muppets is? Kermit doesn't f*** enough pigs. Let's have him a different pig. Let's do that. Let's all do that. In fact, a few years back, a local station in New York sent out a camera crew to put the penny to the test.
I performed a little experiment on the street today, dumped 150 pennies onto the sidewalk and just watched who would pick them up. People saw the pennies, like this woman, but kept walking. After 25 minutes, not one person bent down.
Think about that. A penny is actual US currency, and yet the prospect of a free one on the ground is treated like a free copy of Kirstie Alley's memoir resting in a used diaper. And if you're thinking, well, come on, John, that's just one instance. No, it's not. A few years later, a San Francisco news crew ran the exact same experiment.
It's your lucky day. Abe Lincoln, face up on the sidewalk. Better move quick, he'll be gone any second. Right?
You don't want him?
No. What? Throwing pennies on the ground is essentially catnip to local news crews. Hey, did an old woman celebrate a birthday? No. OK, did an animal do something funny? No. OK, get me a handful of pennies and a camera. I'm getting us to the 10:30 repeat of Friends. Who wants a penny? But our indifference to pennies doesn't stop there. In a 2002 Gallup poll, 2% of Americans admitted to regularly throwing pennies in the garbage. Which means the US Mint is spending millions to make garbage. And that's not their job. That's M. Night Shyamalan's job. And when we're not throwing pennies in the garbage, we're doing even worse things with them, as attested to by a Reddit thread titled, "I put a penny in my butt and now I can't get it out." And before you ask, apparently the reason they did it was, and I quote, "I wanted to know what it would feel like to put a cold penny up my butt. I put it in the fridge for like 2 to 3 hours." First, little known fact, that's actually how Daniel Day-Lewis prepared to buy Abraham Lincoln. And incidentally, and this is also true, that penny is currently in your pocket. And it's not just hard to carry pennies around, it can be hard to spend them. According to the Treasury Department, private businesses are free to prohibit payment in pennies, and some of them have caught on to this.
At a growing number of businesses, including Mike's Bikes in San Rafael, pennies have fallen from favor. Now at Mike's, every cash transaction rounds down to the nearest nickel in a customer's favor. Their reaction has been overwhelmingly underwhelming.
Whatever is easier. I don't care. Am I helping?
I'm pretty sure we just found the man who gives the least amount of shits in American history. Someone out there needs to meme this beautiful man and do it now. In fact, as far as I can tell, there are only 2 things pennies are genuinely good for. One, you can throw a penny in a fountain to make a wish. But at its current value, no fountain is granting you a wish unless it's incredibly small, like, I wish somewhere in the world a mouse has a good day. Or, I wish I knew what a penny looked like underwater. The only other option is use pennies out of pure spite, like this UNC Charlotte student did with a parking fine.
Coyle went to 3 different banks to get 5 $25 boxes containing 2,500 pennies. That got him to reach his total of $11,000.
And I brought them in 3 separate buckets for them.
He sat there while 2 workers counted every single penny.
It took them approximately 3 hours and 40 minutes.
Wow. That college kid sure taught those 2 employees who had nothing to do with the policy he was protesting a lesson. I bet the school gave him his own parking spot after that. And it is worth noting, pennies don't just waste our time. having them hanging around can sometimes be downright dangerous.
Jack is a voracious eater, says his owner, Tim Kelleher.
This is how it happened. He jumped up on the desk trying to get something, and he chewed through the bag, and he knocked the box over, and pennies were everywhere, and he licked up the pennies, and he licked up 111 of them.
Holy shit! 111 pennies. At that point, that dog had more Lincoln in him than Mary Todd. And by the way, and this is also true, one of the pennies inside that dog is in your pocket right now. So why haven't we gotten rid of the penny? Well, one reason, believe it or not, is that there is a penny lobby, and at the forefront is a terribly named group called Americans for Common Sense, whose spokesman has some pretty unconvincing arguments.
Americans overwhelmingly want to keep the penny, and no one has explained how we would replace the millions of dollars that are raised by charities and charity drives every year if we didn't have the penny around.
Wait, so his argument is no one would give to charity if they couldn't give something basically worthless, which is a pretty cynical view of humanity. I'll be honest, I don't think much of people, but even I have to believe they'd be willing to break out a f***ing nickel. And you might want to take his argument with a grain of salt, given his group's backers.
Weller's a lobbyist for Jardins Inc., the Tennessee company that sells those little blank discs for the mint to turn into Lincoln pennies.
So they're in the pocket of Big Zinc. And if not for the penny, what are they supposed to do with all those blank zinc discs? Hold a mini Olympic discus throwing competition starring hamsters from around the globe? Yes, that's clearly exactly what they should do. But even that zinc company doesn't seem to care that much about pennies. So far this year, they've only spent around $140,000 lobbying on it, which isn't much considering that Jardine Corporation, their parent company, is a $10 billion business. The penny contract is nothing to them next to the money that they make from products like, and this is true, Yankee Candle, crock pots, and class rings. Essentially, Jardine makes anything that you would find left behind after a burglary. But there is actually one more staunch defender of the penny, Lincoln enthusiasts.
The Lincoln Library told us they'll fight for the Lincoln penny right down to the last cent.
Yeah, but why? Lincoln doesn't need the penny for notoriety. He's everywhere. We've put him on novelty bandages, cup and ball games, and creepy chia pets. And you know where else we put him? The $5 bill! You know, the thing that's worth 500 times more than the penny. And if you're thinking, well, maybe we could make the penny out of something cheaper, we can't. The US Mint admitted that there are no alternative metal compositions that reduce the manufacturing cost of the penny below its face value. Essentially, there is no cheaper way to make a penny because there is no other substance that is so worthless without making them out of DVDs of The Cosby Show. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. And if we wanted to get rid of the penny, we could do it. Canada, Australia, Ireland, New Zealand and many others have all done so in recent years. It wouldn't even be the first time the US got rid of a coin. We used to have a halfpenny, and guess when we got rid of it?
The halfpenny was dropped in 1857 because inflation had rendered its buying power obsolete.
They knew it didn't make sense to keep a currency that had no value, and that was back in 1857 when people were scared of the moon and wiped their arses with rocks. So come on. Let's dump the penny. Not because we need to, not because it will change a great deal, but because there are certain things we know are impossible to get rid of. Terrorism, herpes, and Guy Fieri. But the penny is a nuisance we could actually do something about. So let's do it, America. Let's get the penny out of our pockets, out of our dogs, out of our fridges, and out of our arses. We can do this!